Hey, all right, guys. It's me, Froggy, doing another Lion Share video. Today we're gonna focus on chapter 14, which is pretty interesting. I read it today. I'm doing my best not to slurp. I've got to meet a bunch of listeners and subscribers for my videos, and a few of them have said the same thing my mother told me, that I'm slurping my drinks. So stop slurping the drinks. So I don't mean to do it; it just comes naturally. But I'm gonna try. As long as if I remember, I'm gonna try not to slurp the drink. But yeah, I am here in Vegas. We just had the Treasure Conference. Well, the Treasure Conference is tomorrow, but tonight was the poker game. Had a lot of fun. I got to meet a lot of viewers and a lot of subscribers, and it was just really I don't know what's the right word, endearing. It was really not really emotional. It was it was a great feeling. My vocabulary is lacking to express, but a lot of people said they really enjoy the shows. A lot of encouragement, a lot of discussions about specific episodes and specific things I said. So I just a heartfelt thanks to everybody who has commented and subscribed, and then everybody who I met today. It was great meeting you guys, putting a face to a handle or a face to a screen name. I really appreciate that. So again, I had read the book, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna do a chapter, but staying here, sleeping in the hotel room, I was like, I can't sleep. I might as well go ahead and get these thoughts that I've been ruminating on during the day. Go ahead and put them out there. It's just I want to keep making the content. A lot of you guys have said that it helps, so I want to keep putting out stuff. So we're going to talk on chapter 14, and I've got a few things in here. So chapter 14 is unique in a couple aspects, in that it's pretty long, not just in like words and pages, but in the subject that it covers. Right, so there's a lot of chapters have like one or maybe even two main subjects or main characters. This one's got a few, right? It starts off with, Lewis Comfort Tiffany, right? Then it goes into Thoreau, a little bit about Emerson, not really, and then it goes into, even after that, it goes into John Brown. Right, and then it even covers, John Maxwell. This chapter, I know chapter 1 had a lot of people in it, but this chapter, it's a lot of people in like different topics. Chapter 1, it was a lot of the early Apple employees, right, with Steve and Steve and Mike and Mike. But this chapter, it's a lot, and I'm wondering, it almost feels to me like he crammed it in here. I don't know if maybe the chapter total is significant, 24, because why couldn't he just make it 25 and done, Tiffany and Thoreau, right? Because, with Tiffany, he could have covered, the original Tiffany Sr. with the Tiffany jewelry, and then Tiffany the glassmaker. And then he could have also, with the Thoreau, he could have covered Thoreau, and then even gone into John Brown. Right, so it just seems. I guess I'm trying to figure out, were they contemporaries? Tiffany and Thoreau. I think. I feel like Tiffany came later. 1900s, right, for Tiffany, and then Thoreau was like 1840. So yeah. Maybe their lives crossed paths, or maybe they were alive a little bit at the same time. I don't know. It just for me, this chapter seems like it's a lot stuffed in this chapter, and again, I've only done the deep dive of the chapter 14, so maybe we'll find some more chapters after 14 that are pretty stuffed, right? But looking back from what we've covered, 1 through 13, I don't really see a lot of like cramming a bunch of different topics, and the only one that comes really kind of close is chapter 3, puzzle box, magnifying glass, and mysterious egg. But the magnifying glass and the egg, they're both from the same person, Fabergé. So I don't really it's only two things, it's not three things. And the Hopi chapter, right? I mean, that's the grandfather or the uncle and the niece. What's it? Yeah, it's uncle and niece. I mean, so it's the same kind of family. I don't really see as much. Yeah, so that's one thing I find odd is how much how much time is covered, right, from the 1700s to the 1800s. I mean, it's a lot that's covered. And starting off about talking about like the American dream and capitalism, like those are heavy subjects getting into it. So I find that odd for a few reasons there. I did see another callback, right? So we're talking about callbacks with 007 with the last chapter. I did see a callback here, speaking about the bee, right? My favorite excitement, like a bee landing on a pistol, right? So this is 129. How to extract its honey from the flower of the world. This is my everyday business. I am like the bee searching the livelong day for the sweets of nature. And to me, I mean, that's not a direct call out. Like 007 is actually mentioned, so that's a more direct one. But to me, I feel like we're going back to chapter, I think it's 4. Yep. Page 48, chapter 4. So page 48, chapter 4. At the very top paragraph, or second paragraph. But then, like a bee landing on a pistol, a ping of excitement buzzed in my belly. Right? So, I mean, that's always stuck out with me, is like, what? And now here we talk about 129. I am like the bee searching for the livelong day for the sweets of nature. I mean, I don't know. 2B analogy, 2B metaphors in one book. Is that a lot? One of the other things I find interesting is that, again, I don't have that much experience with, okay, here we go. Drink time, no slurping. Nailed it. And again, I don't have that much experience with treasure hunting. So maybe somebody who's done, which I met people today who had done for years, many hunts, and even winners, which is even incredible to me. They're like, "Oh man, it's great to meet you." I'm like, "No, it's great to meet you because you're actually a winner." Like, I couldn't win, so I had to create something. But and from talking with them, not too many treasure hunts and the creators continually, I would say, encourage or continually guide the players along in the way that JCB is doing, right? So page 132. So if you want to find the treasures I've hidden, don't demand too much of yourself, right? He's giving you encouragement for like how to find the treasure. I don't know, and he does that throughout multiple chapters, right? He does that, here's clues. If you want to find my treasure, look for this. If you want to find, our treasure, do this. But don't get confirmation bias. Don't give up. Keep looking. I don't know. It just seems interesting the way he's organizing it, right? And it just makes me feel like the clues aren't going to be as traditional clues. Like when I think of clues, I think of by the third log with the X, right? Or go to the park that has a name like the sun on the backside of the bear. Or those are terrible analogies, but a clue like that, right? Whereas his clues seem to be encouraging you for how to not give up. But one thing that I think everybody who's read this chapter, which it still blows my mind that there's people who haven't read the book yet, but please, you should really read the book. If you haven't read the book, like, come on, we're like several months into it, you need to read the book. But one of the big things from chapter 4 is about the irises, right? And this is early on, page 127, I think like the third page into the chapter. I think this is pretty big. Okay, so the motifs, we're talking at 1, 2, like three paragraphs. Again, page 127. The motifs on all of Lewis's enameled works were inspired by nature. As I look at the blue and the pink iris on our vase, I can't help but think of the resting places of the boxes I've hidden and the colors of nature that surround each of them. Perhaps you'll pass by similar flowers along your way. So again, this is similar to talking about the picnic table, right? Maybe you'll a picnic for one of our boxes. And this is like the third time in part 1 so far where he's giving you kind of a hint or a nudge for like, hey, when you find one of the boxes, you're gonna find this. I mean, it's encouraging that a couple of my solves are near like wildflower fields, like particularly the one that I'm still leaning toward for the past and the future box in what's it? I'm trying to remember the name. Clear Lake, Clearwater Creek Canyon Trail, Clear Canyon Lake Trail. I forgot off the top of my head, but it's in the Trinity Alps, right? The Trinity Alps Wilderness. So in that solve, that canyon that it goes down, there's like a couple fields on the sides of the trail with wildflowers in them. So I haven't looked to see if they're irises or blue or pink ones. You know, this is the first time I'm seeing pink really that sticks out to me. We have blue, which maybe I need to get away from the whole color thing. You know, early on I said, you know, colors are an indicator. You know, blue means this, whatever. Maybe I'm getting too hung up on that, but I mean, blue's right there. Which of all the colors that you can choose from in the rainbow, to be repeating the same three like blue, green, red over and over again, it just seems like it might be important. I don't know. Maybe it won't. I mean, this is an interesting chapter on second read. On the first read, it may not be that exciting unless you're like a history, not a history buff, an English buff, like really into like American writers and stuff. And I think that I'm gonna try to stop saying and stuff. I forget what movie I was in, but not what movie I was in. What movie I was reading, what movie I was watching. Jeez, where they said you don't have to say and stuff. I think it's like a father talking to a daughter. You don't have to say and stuff, sweetie. That line stuck in my head. It's really weak. I shouldn't say and stuff. But so let me try not slurp and not say and stuff. We're working our way through it here. But those are the three main things that I'm getting from this chapter, right? Again, there's a lot of cool things in here. There's a lot of interesting things in here. I mean, JCB says that like Thoreau's taking responsibility for his failure, but it just really seems to me like he's passing it off. He blames the fire department, or he says I'm gonna push for a fire department because this happened. He talks about like he hopes people weren't that upset, or what does he say? He says lightning, like, oh, I didn't do much more damage than lightning would have done. I mean, I can't imagine someone speaking the way he speaks about that Concord fire, about the fires in LA and how that would be received. Oh, look, I got it right here. So page 129. I have set fire to the forest, but I have done no wrong therein, and now it is as if the lightning had done it. These flames are but consuming their natural food. Yeah, it doesn't exactly feel like he's owning up his mistakes right there. But JCB says he does, so I don't know. Is that a clue? I don't really know if that's a clue. It's just kind of JCB. Maybe he liked Thoreau or read Thoreau, and he got an original manuscript, and so now he had to work it in a story, and now he's coming up with a creative story for it. Again, yeah, I don't really have too much insight there. I wouldn't really consider that a clue, as more just something of interest yet. But again, the three big things I'm taking from here is, one, all the different characters, or the fact that he seems to cram so much into this chapter. It makes me feel the number 24 is significant, or something else with the chapters, because again, he could have easily have just made 25 chapters, right? I mean, there's 65 to 70 treasures, so 24 doesn't really go into them evenly. So, I mean, what's the point of making it 24? Again, but it seems like some chapters, a couple of them, he crams a few things into instead of giving it their own chapter, which most chapters have their own treasure. So again, is this chapter is the clue for this chapter like an indicator, like, hey, look how much I'm cramming into this chapter. Maybe you should look at the number 24 closer, which 24 hasn't really appeared to me that much. I mean, 3s and 5s, yeah, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of 2s and pairs, but I haven't really seen a lot of 24s. Okay, so we'll look at chapter 24 as a clue, or I guess how he crams stuff sometimes as a clue. Obviously, when he tells you about looking for our treasure and tips for it, we should take that into note, whether it's a red herring or whether it's misdirection. But I don't think we can ignore it. We have to at least give it some thought. So that's page 127 again, the blue and pink irises. And then the first thing I had talked about, which is the last thing we're just trying to recap, is his story with himself. So almost every single chapter, except for very few, well, I know the treasure Spanish galleon one doesn't really have a personal anecdote, but this one, right, his personal anecdote is about grades and his report card. But then he goes on to talk about so that's kind of the story within a story, which I've stopped talking about that. I don't think I haven't found too many after that first chapter, so I don't know if I'm going to continue using that as something to look for, the whole story within a story. But he does talk about a little bit about his childhood, and I mean it's kind of two stories in one. It's about his grades, right, and learning about failure. Then it goes on to becoming a father and all the failures there. So that's I just feel like it's interesting. And now that I'm looking on it, he covers John Maxwell a lot. Like it's almost a whole page dedicated to like failing forward in John Maxwell. And maybe he couldn't find any treasures that were directly related to Maxwell. So that's why he wanted to include John Maxwell in the book, and just had to kind of decide what chapter am I going to cram John Maxwell into, because I like his teachings and I want the reader, to learn about him. So maybe he chose this chapter for that. I don't know. I feel like I'm a little bit bouncing around here. And maybe I'm bouncing around because there's so much in this chapter. Like, so much content. Not too much jumps out at me, though. Like, yeah, I don't see too many, like, the small little literary or grammatical details that, have been popped out. Other than the B thing. And I mean the S, G, and EL. I mean that's kind of anytime there's a mystery in the book, I feel like we should look forward. So that's on page 126, the very bottom. Talks about Luis's enameled pieces are marked SG or EL. EL stands out to me because that's my initials. While SG stood for stout bridge glass, the name of his enameling division, the meaning of EL is unknown. So anytime in the book, anytime in a treasure book, right, with mysteries and clues and stuff. Oh, I said and stuff again. With mysteries and clues and like such. Anytime he says unknown, or the cause isn't known, or even like in the Spanish galleon chapter, right, when he talks about something that's unknown, I think it's a clue that we should dive in a little deeper, at least write down somewhere. EL. I mean, maybe that's going to be important when we actually find a boots on the ground clue and not just all these individual clues from chapters. But that's it. I'm wrapping that one up. Closing out chapter 14. That's all I really want to cover, was just those few thoughts about Thoreau, the few thoughts about how the book's written, and really the few thoughts about how much is in this chapter. And that just makes me think, this is the chapter that really makes me think about the whole part one, or the whole of the book, right? It doesn't really make me dive deep down into this chapter, which, the content is a little bit outside my wheelhouse, so I may have to like dive in again. But just the fact that there's so much in this chapter, I mean, it spans almost 200-300 years of history when he covers it. I mean, it's got 4 or 5 major American historical figures in it. I mean, starting out talking about capitalism and the American dream, ending with John Brown and the raid in Harper's Ferry. It's heavy stuff. It's a lot. I mean, I can see the threads, and definitely see the threads. I mean, it's not one of his worst jumps there, but I don't know. That's all I got. Chapter 14, Lions share clues. Lions share. Anyways, see what you guys can make of that. All right, bye.